Well, then suddenly these letters showed up that other small business people were posting online saying that, and I think you might have put one on there, which was in an effort to make sure everyone gets
A little something.
a little something, a little slice of the pie here,
Yeah.
to make sure everyone gets a little slice of the pie. The grant is going to give you $1,000 per employee, up to $10,000.
I remember seeing that.
And it was like, well, okay. So now you've got the person who was hoping for $10,000 to keep their sole proprietorship open, because maybe 10,000 would have done it.
Yeah.
Well, you're only about 9,000 short.
Yes.
Now they're back to scrambling. They're back to page one. They're back to, what are we doing? So then it's like, we've taken the roller coaster up to the top of the hill and we're feeling good up at the top, and then it drops. The bottom comes right out.
Yeah.
And so now you've got people that are, and back onto the emotional roller coaster of how am I going to survive this process? So with that, now I will also like to say with our group, and this is actually a very positive thing, we did make connection with some of our political leaders for our area, which is nice. I did a lot of research. I sent a slightly scathing letter to more of a diatribe than a letter to the governor, to our state representatives, to our local county commissioners, to my township supervisors. I put it all the same letter all the way down the line and sent it to Channel 11 News. And I said, listen, this is just not right. This is not the way this is supposed to work. We understand there's a crisis and the public health is first, but what are we doing? What is the public health going to be when suddenly everyone's out of work? And now we've got foreclosures. Now we have a ripple up effect that could just destroy what's left of the finances of the government. So when our taxes go up to pay for all of this, what do we have? We have no business. Right. We have no income. We have no money. Take the house. I mean, okay. But how's it all going to shake out? And again, this is long-term thinking. This isn't just, this month. This is like, how am I getting through the year and what are we doing and so on. But getting back to that, State Representative Tim O'Neill joined our group. I did contact him, and he did join our group, and he and I have had some communication on the side, and he was very forthcoming with letters that he wrote to the governor about getting people back to work. And I think that was probably the greatest thing that came out of our group, was we now had a voice within the state that they know, here we are, right? This small little band of merry men and women, and but here we are, and we're telling you we can't live with this process.
That's right.
It will not work, and we need your help to make sure that the state knows that this is not going to be a good thing. And we've had some comments on, and it's like, this is headed down an ugly road. We don't know what that's going to mean. And so that just really became an issue. But Representative Tim O'Neill was very responsive. And again, like I said, I think he did a great job of really pushing very quickly, to take our story to the state. I think he did get some response per se. I think that it definitely, we've got our one representative. And then if you've got small groups like our group and they're talking to their representative and I definitely made sure to post on there, here's how to get a hold of everyone. And it's all nice because it's all online emails, and you can get on there and type your feelings, and you can let them know, come November or next November, how you feel. That's so,
right. And from the time this hit, which my recollection is like, I don't know, March 13th was Friday, and that was the last time the Marcus Tyler band played, and we were calling that the Corona, the Corona party or whatever. But I think the next day, the proverbial shit hit the fan, if I can be straight up. So from March 14th to about now, how many weeks along are you in this roller coaster merry-go-round?
7 weeks or so, coming up almost on, we're heading there. It's 6-7 weeks right now.
But I mean, by the time you're at this point with the process of getting financing, that you're a couple 3 weeks into this thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, like I said, and of course, like a lot of the people in our small business group, because people were communicating, letting people know. I said, did you have a problem filling out a form? Let the group know so we know what we have to look for. People were saying, don't even start filling out the form unless you have A, B, and C ready to go. Right. So you're not wasting your time, and it was very supportive. But I think you actually received the same letter that I did. From our local bank. And it said, hey, we need another piece of information, because it goes to the bank underwriting team for PPP. It goes to the bank underwriting team before it goes to the SBA. And it said, we need a little more information. That's it. It asked for one very simple thing for us, which I was shocked. I just, was waiting for the list to come back. So it was easy. So we get on there, we print all this stuff out, and we resubmit that to be attached with our form. And the next day on the news, they said, everyone's out of money. There's no more money. And it was like, well, wasn't that odd? Yeah. Wasn't that odd that suddenly now that, and it wasn't the bank's issue, it's the federal government said, well, we've run out of money. And you can understand, I'm looking at this from a Washington County perspective and to the state of Pennsylvania perspective. And we're really talking about there's 50 states that are really involved. Yeah. It's not just that Washington, D.C. is going, hey, Pennsylvania, here's your personal chunk, it says, so we're really dealing with this on a national basis. And you've got millions of people trying to get a hold of something for a life-sustaining lifeline or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, we put in the paperwork, we did all of those things. And then shortly after that happened, after they ran out of money, that the news started to come up with who got the money. And I think that was, to a small business person, was a slap in the face and a kick down lower. Yeah. To find out that with an interview that I did with Channel 11 News, I found out during that interview that in Washington County, 6 businesses received money. The entire county, entire Washington County, 6 businesses received money. 5 at $100,000. I think one was at $86,000.
For what was that, a total of about what?
$586,000 is what went to Washington. Total. Okay. Went to Washington County, and it was like, I don't get it. How does this happen? Again, there's no filter in place, to make sure that everyone's getting a little bit of the pie. And
then it was a little later, by the way, that we found out what Harvard and Ruth's Chris.
Yes. We found out that these, publicly traded, well-funded companies had applied, and which of course instantly caused an upheaval. But then the return response to that was, well, it's not that bad because, legally they were allowed to apply because the SBA, in their infinite wisdom, the loophole says as long as you have less than 500 employees per location. That's the loophole. Got it. And it's like, and you're doing under so many million a year. But it was like, okay, so how many businesses have over 500 people per location? If you're not a car manufacturer, if you're not, you think about the biggest business we have in Pittsburgh. Okay, one single location. Do you really think they have 500 people running around in that office? No. But overall, they've got 600,000 people working for them or whatever it might be. So it was that was ludicrous. It was just, and of course, the public outcry, really, I think for their effort to save face is where you started seeing that money going back. Yeah. And had it not become a public outcry, I'm not sure that money ever would have been returned. I believe that, from what I understand, that the Ruth Chris money, and that was PPP, that was the Payroll Protection Program. Okay. That's a grant. That would have been...
Yeah, if they're using it on employees or rent,
yep.
Right?
Oh, it could be rent, utilities. There's all sorts of things that you could... That is like a massive capital infusion for a company. And you think if you've got $20, $30 million, then that's on the bottom line, for a company. Okay, you had a bad month. All right. Well, what's a bad month? 2 million. Okay. So what are you going to do with the other 18? And again, I don't think my feeling on that is if shame on you, you got caught. Okay. If it had not become a public outcry, would they have just in the goodness of their heart said, well, here's that money back because we don't need it. And again, and of course, then you get both sides of the political battle, right? You have to do what's right, and no, you should keep your money or whatever. It's some crazy stuff. But, knowing that those people are putting money back in, I really do believe it's only because of that. Now we've got the second round. So they're talking about the second round of funding. Great. So here's some more money. And it took Congress way too long to come up with the agreement for that. And I don't know, the Republicans had to concede so much stuff and the Democrats had to concede, and, to be able to say, here's more money. Then we come down to, okay, their next step is they say that $60 billion is earmarked for small banks, so that they want to make sure that money gets down to the small business. Okay, so the odd part in all of that is, as I found out, now my bank, which I think is also your bank, isn't on that small bank list.
I see.
We're considered a big bank.
Okay.
So now they're a big bank, so we're not earmarked again. So we're kind of like that, like typical when it comes to, taxes and whatever, We're not, college education funding. Right? We can't get financial aid, and we sure can't afford to put our kids through college, right? We just have to figure out how to pay for the whole thing.
Right.
And because we're in the middle. And I think we're in the middle again when it comes to this next round of funding. So we don't know what's going to happen, and again, with us being able to go back to work here starting up within the next week, brings on a whole nother series of questions and whatnot, how we're going to accomplish that. What does it mean? What do the supply chains look like? You've got the work pool. I know a lot of, I was looking at a job in Harrisburg, and a lot of the subcontractors that were set up out there are now having to review whether or not they can even go back to work, because you now have hourly employees that are making unemployment for 6 months, plus $600 a week for 8 weeks. So at least for 2 months, why would they go back to work? Because they're making more money at home.
That's right.
But the small business owner, as we are, we don't have unemployment. We don't get unemployment. We're not even allowed to file and so on. Well, then the state also came up with, and it's also part of the federal plan, which is the PUA, unemployment. I don't know. I can't even think of what it stands for now. There's so many acronyms out there. So that the self-employed, sole proprietor, small business, even if you're a one-man shop, if you're a 1099 employee, a gig worker, you are allowed to apply for unemployment. So, which is great. The first day, the system crashed. Just crashed. The unemployment system, I think it was almost 2 days before it came back up, before you could even get on there to start filling out the form.
Kind of reminds me, by the way, when they rolled out the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, right?
Yes.
Spent billions of dollars on this site, talked about it from 2010 to 2014, and when open enrollment happened, it crashed.
Yep.
Days, nobody could log on.
We want it to be the most successful thing ever.
Ever, right?
But we're not ready for it to be successful.
Yeah. So here we are, unemployment, right?
Yes.
And it is it is flatline.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that same thing where it's the here is your lifeline.
Yeah.
As a self-employed individual, here's your lifeline to at least keep your home and do this, from the state.
Right.
The same thing I was looking for on Governor Wolf's website that first day.
Right. Where you found the link.
Yes. And it's, right. And it's, but here it is now. We've got this and it's great. And you go on there and they've got like 2-3 pages of little click the box, have you done this? Did you do that? Did this, and that? And they're asking for, what did you do for the last 2 years? It says, did you work outside the state of Pennsylvania within the last 2 years? Well, yes, my wife worked in West Virginia over a year ago. Mm-hmm. What does that have to do with the fact that we have no money today?
Right.
And for myself, it said, have you worked for a state agency or whatever, a school district, a local agency or whatever within the last 2 years? Well, yes, I did work also for a school district over a year ago. Okay, so that's when I was working up at Plum School District. Wonderful. What does that have to do with the fact that we have our business and it is growing and we are entering the